Today's program in Phoenix, Arizona. We're pleased to be joined by Herman Cain, who's a prominent talk show host, the former CEO of Godfather's Pizza, who has announced just yesterday that he's formed a Presidential Exploratory Committee. Mr. Cain, thanks for being here. I want to start with the president's.
Thank you.
I want to start with the president's address yesterday. You're obviously, by coincidence, in the state of Arizona. I'm wondering what your thoughts were the president's performance last night.
Well, he said the right things, and I think he set the tone, and he reminded the entire country, like Chris Christie said, that's exactly what you would expect a leader to do. It should be a time for all of us to reflect upon the things that are really important, as well as reflect on toning down some of the incendiary rhetoric. So I thought that he did a good job in that respect.
Well, speaking of toning down the incendiary rhetoric, tell us what you think as you watch the reaction to Sarah Palin's video, and give us your own reaction to her video.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I have not seen her video because yesterday, as you know, I was announcing my Presidential Exploratory Committee. And so between interviews that I have been doing, I have not seen it. So I really don't have a reaction to it at this point.
Yeah. Well, you're someone who's, you've been at a lot of Tea Party rallies. You've been a talk show host for a while. You've heard a lot of things out there, some of it quite incendiary. Do you take this moment to say, as President Obama talked about last night, we need to rethink our political dialogue, our political rhetoric? Is there anything do you plan to do differently as a potential presidential candidate based on this moment of reflection?
Here's what I plan to do. I plan to focus on solutions to the issues we face. You know, analyzing the political dialogue and what's incendiary, that's going to probably continue. Not everybody's going to self-police themselves in that regard. I've always focused, especially in the last 3 years doing my radio show, on what are the major issues, what are the problems we really need to be working on, but more importantly, what are those common sense solutions that we ought to be talking about, engaging the public so we can truly stimulate the economy, we can re-strengthen our national security, we can really get a handle on the immigration problems, and we can really do something about cutting federal spending. That's where I'm going to focus on as I go forward in evaluating whether or not I am going to make a final decision to run for president.
Well, Mr. Cain, can you give us an example of one of your ideas, one of your solutions to those problems that you just laid out?
Yes, I have been doing a lot of speaking in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and other states. The first question that always comes up, what would I do differently to truly stimulate the economy? There's some low-hanging fruit. First, make the tax rates permanent. By extending the tax rates for 2 years, all that did was to extend the uncertainty hanging over this economy for 2 years. Secondly, I would go to Congress and ask them to lower the top corporate tax rate from 35% to 25%. It's not a new idea, but we are the only developed nation in the world that has not lowered its top corporate tax rate in the last 15 years. Thirdly, I would lower the capital gains tax rate. That would help to stimulate investment. We should not be trying to punish people who take risks. And here's another one that would be an easy one, in my opinion. Suspend taxes on repatriated profits. Or in other words, profits that companies make overseas, they leave those profits overseas in many instances in order to avoid double taxation. Those are what I call low-hanging fruit ideas that could truly stimulate. Now, one other one that I would do, instead of just a 2% payroll tax holiday, I would do an entire 6.2 payroll tax holiday for the employer and the employee to put direct stimulus back in the hands of the American people.
I'm curious, as you're conceptualizing the possibility of a presidential campaign, what you're looking at, what the criteria will be. And when you look at the president in an event last night, as you said, he met the moment, do you think he is beatable? Do you think you can beat this guy?
Yes. If I didn't think that I could win the Republican nomination, number one, and if I didn't think that I could beat in a political competition President Obama, I wouldn't be doing this. I had a good friend ask me, I had a new acquaintance ask me, was I arrogant enough to be president? And my response was, I'm confident enough to be president. So I am confident that after we go through this exploratory phase, where we are going to test the amount of voter support, We're going to test the amount of financial support that I would be able to garner after I go through this phase. And if the decision is yes, trust me, I'm running to win, not for a consolation prize.
One other quick question on policy for a second. We know that Congress is probably going to have to take up the debt ceiling question. Where do you think, first of all, do you support doing this? And what do you think Congress should do?
The debt, we are going to blow through the debt ceiling whether Congress raises it or not. But what I would do is, rather than just blow through the debt ceiling because of the non-discretionary spending that we cannot stop at this point, I wouldn't agree to raise it unless we had an ironclad agreement about how we were going to deal with the spending.
Right.
Allowing it to just blow through, or raising it because we are going to blow through it, which would make our interest costs go up on some of the Treasury notes that we have scattered around the world. Rather than do that, I'd have an ironclad agreement between Republicans and Democrats as to what we're going to do to stop it and to prevent us from having to go down this same path again.
All right, Herman Cain, a potential presidential candidate, just formed that exploratory committee, talk show host. We appreciate you being here on Topline, and we look forward to having you back as 2012 builds up. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Rick. Thanks, Amy.